capture, December 20th, 1944. The Ardennes, December 20th, 1944. Near Bastogne, Belgium. Snow falls thick and silent, muffling the thunder of distant artillery. In a shattered forest clearing, a group of German soldiers trudges through the slush, hands raised, rifles discarded. They are young, many barely 20. The last remnants of a Panzer Grenadier unit shattered during the Battle of the Bulge. A U.S. Army Jeep idles nearby, its engines sputtering in the cold. Private First Class Raymond Ellis of the 101st Airborne steps forward, his M1 Garand slung loosely over his shoulder. "Keep 'em moving," he mutters, gesturing toward the road. Among the prisoners is Obergefreiter Wilhelm Hartmann, a former apprentice machinist from Hamburg. His once proud uniform is caked in mud and frost. His hands tremble, not from fear, but from disbelief. He had been told the Americans were retreating, that their lines were collapsing. Yet here he stands, surrounded by well-fed, confident soldiers in clean uniforms, their jeeps roaring, their radios crackling with chatter. They said America was starving. Hartmann whispers to the man beside him. But look at them. The prisoners are loaded into the back of a U.S. Army truck. The ride is long and silent, broken only by the crunch of tires over snow and the faint rumble of engines moving west. Somewhere in the distance, the rumble of Allied bombers fades into the night. Days later, they are marched into a temporary holding camp in northern France, barbed wire, watchtowers, and tents half buried in frost. An American sergeant shouts, orders through a loudspeaker. "You'll be transferred to the States. No one mistreated, no one harmed. Follow orders and you'll eat better than you did in Germany." The men exchange wary looks. America? None of them believe it. German propaganda had told them the United States was on the brink of collapse. Factories idle, workers rioting, cities in flames. But as the convoy reaches the port of Le Havre weeks later, the sight of vast cargo ships, cranes, and endless stacks of supplies begins to unravel everything they thought they knew. Hartmann stares at the docks in silence, his breath fogging the air. "If this is a dying country," he mutters, "then what does victory even mean?" The sea is gray and endless. Wind howls across the deck of the transport ship SS Argentina as it cuts through the winter Atlantic. Packed below deck, hundreds of German prisoners huddle in the dim light of the hold, the air thick with diesel fumes, sweat, and the metallic rattle of chains used to secure crates of supplies. Obergefreiter Wilhelm Hartmann sits on a wooden bunk, staring at the steel bulkhead. Around him, the men whisper. Nervous? Uncertain. One leans forward and says quietly, "They're taking us to labor camps. Maybe in Africa. America can't feed its own people." But Hartmann shakes his head. Since leaving Le Havre, every American ship in port they've seen has been overflowing with abundance. New trucks, polished weapons, food stacked in neat crates labeled rations, U.S. Army. Everything efficient, organized, unstoppable. Above deck, American guards in thick wool coats patrol casually, rifles slung, laughing among themselves. They don't look cruel, just tired, confident, as if the war is already over. One of them, a young sergeant from Ohio, glances at the Germans lined along the rail and says with a smirk, "Wait till you boys see Kansas City." It's not a threat. It sounds like a joke. But something in his tone lingers with Hartmann. After 2 weeks at sea, the shoreline appears. Dark at first, then bright with flickering lights. A skyline rises from the horizon, not destroyed like Hamburg or Cologne, but alive, glowing. It's New York City. Even hardened officers stare in silence as the SS Argentina glides into the harbor. The Statue of Liberty stands against the dawn. Tugboats whistle. On the docks, cranes move in rhythmic motion, loading and unloading cargo under floodlights. One prisoner whispers, almost involuntarily, "They told us the Americans had nothing left." As they disembark, U.S. military police line them up with calm precision. No shouting, no blows, only quiet efficiency. In the distance, beyond the wire fences, they glimpse traffic. Yellow cabs, streetcars, smoke curling from skyscrapers untouched by bombs. Hartman can't look away. To him, it feels unreal. A dream in color that has somehow bled into life. Within days, they're herded aboard a train bound for the interior, westward through snow-covered fields, small towns, and cities that stretch endlessly. Every mile challenges another lie they've been told. He presses his face to the window as the train passes through Chicago, marveling at the rows of factories still running at full strength. The billboards advertising cars, radios, and something called Coca-Cola. How can they build all this, he murmurs, and still fight a war across the ocean? No one answers, but the question hangs in the air, heavier than any chain. The camp in the screen, March of 1945, Fort Robinson, Nebraska. The train screeches to a halt beneath a pale blue sky. Snow still clings to the tracks, but the air is dry, clean, unlike the damp chill of Europe. When the doors slide open, the German prisoners blink against the sunlight. Ahead stretches an orderly complex of wooden barracks, neat fences, and open fields. A sign reads, Fort Robinson, U.S. Army prisoner of war camp. The guards, mostly young men barely older than the prisoners themselves, guide them down from the cars. The Americans are calm, even friendly. One offers a cigarette. Another gestures toward the mess hall. You'll get food, work, and rest here. No one's here to punish you. The war's punishment enough. Hartman doesn't know what to make of it. The camp isn't brutal or squalid. It's strangely civilized. The barracks are heated. Meals are served at regular hours. The prisoners work repairing trucks, tending fields, even helping local farmers nearby. At night, they are allowed to walk within the wire, to talk, to write letters. Weeks pass, and a strange rhythm takes hold. For the first time in years, the men eat regularly. They sleep without the scream of artillery or the whine of Allied bombers. But the uncertainty lingers. Whispers of Germany's collapse, of cities burned, of families scattered. Then, one evening, everything changes. A U.S. officer steps into the barracks doorway. "Gentlemen," he says, his tone brisk but polite. "You're invited to a film showing in the recreation hall. Attendance is voluntary." Curiosity outweighs suspicion. The hall fills quickly, rows of wooden benches creaking under the weight of 100 uniforms marked with faded swastikas. A projector hums to life, flickering light across their faces. The first frames appear, color. Not black and white like the newsreels they knew. Color. The prisoners gasp. Before them, towering skyscrapers rise in vibrant detail. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Streets teem with cars gleaming in the sun. People stroll through parks, laughing, eating ice cream, waving at the camera. A jazz band plays in the background. Billboards flash. Everything, the lights, the movement, the sheer abundance, feels like another world. For years, they'd been told America was a country of poverty, chaos, and race riots, that its people were soft, decadent, on the verge of collapse. Yet here, projected on the wall of a prison camp in Nebraska, is a nation untouched by war, prosperous, alive, and free. Hartman sits frozen, his mouth dry. "It can't be real," whispers one man beside him. "Propaganda." "Then why would they show it to us?" another murmurs. The film rolls on. Assembly lines in Detroit producing cars and planes in endless rhythm. Crowds at baseball games, families picnicking by rivers under blue skies. For the first time, they see the enemy not as caricature, not the degenerate America of Nazi leaflets, but as something unshakably powerful. When the lights come up, the room is silent. No one speaks. A few stare at the blank wall long after the film ends. Later that night, Hartman lies awake in his bunk, replaying the images in his mind. The skyscrapers, the laughter, the color. "They said we were the future," he whispers into the dark. But maybe the future was over there all along. The realization. Spring 1945. Fort Robinson and beyond. The Nebraska plains bloom with the first warmth of spring. The air smells faintly of rain and diesel from the trucks that shuttle supplies in and out of the camp. By now, the routine has become familiar. Roll call, breakfast, work detail, evening rest. But after the movie night, something unspoken shifts among the men. They work more quietly, talk less about Haymat, and more about what they saw on the screen. For Hartman and others, the image of America, the streets, the crowds, the light, won't leave their minds. One afternoon, as they repair a tractor engine for a local farmer, a corporal named Meissner says under his breath, "You think the Führer ever saw a city like that? Not bombed, not burning?" Hartman wipes grease from his hands, staring at the distant horizon. "No," he says slowly. "I don't think he ever did." The Americans seem almost amused by their awe. When a guard named Joe Callahan, a kid from Kansas, hears them talk about the film, he grins. "That wasn't even the big cities," he says. "You boys should see California." The Germans laugh nervously, unsure whether he's joking. But Callahan isn't smiling. "That's what we're fighting for. Not to destroy, to keep that." As spring turns to summer, news trickles in. Germany has fallen. Hitler is dead. The Reich is gone. In the camp canteen, an American radio announces the surrender. The German POWs stand in silence, hands still, spoons untouched. The sound of Glenn Miller drifts softly through the static between broadcasts. That evening, another film plays. This one official army footage of the liberation of Buchenwald. Many prisoners avert their eyes. Some stare straight ahead, unblinking. When the lights come up, even the loudest voices fall silent. Days later, the camp gates are opened for supervised work crews in nearby towns. For the first time, they walk among ordinary Americans, farmers, shopkeepers, children riding bicycles. Some wave, a few stare. Most simply go about their day, indifferent. Hartman notices the grocery shelves stacked high with fruit, bread, and canned goods. He catches sight of a family piling into a Ford sedan, laughing, the mother holding a camera. The scene could have come straight from the film reel. "They live like this every day," he murmurs, "and we were told they were starving." Back at the camp, he writes a letter home, his first in months. "I have seen America with my own eyes," he writes. "It is not what they told us. The people are free, their cities untouched. They do not hate us. They only live and work and dream." As the months pass, more prisoners begin to change, not through lectures or punishment, but through observation. They see a country that works because its people believe in something larger than fear. By the end of 1945, when repatriation finally begins, Hartman boards a train back east. Before leaving, he glances once more at the horizon, the same direction where the lights of America's cities lie, still bright, still real. He turns to Callahan, who's standing by the platform. "Tell me," Hartman asks, "when you go home, will you remember us?" The guard smiles faintly. "I think," he says, "you'll remember us more." As the train pulls away, the land stretches endlessly, fields, towns, and the promise of something he never imagined existed. For the first time, he wonders not what Germany might rebuild, but what kind of world men could build if they stopped believing the lies that kept them fighting. In the darkness of the train car, he closes his eyes and sees it again. The flicker of a color film, skyscrapers glowing, a jazz band playing in the distance, and a world that had carried on living even as his own fell apart.